Hello all, Shadwell here, ready to talk about the next film in my collection, Blood Sisters from 1987. It's directed by Roberta Findlay and stars Amy Brentano and Shannon McMahon. Here's an obscure horror film directed by a somewhat obscure horror film director, starring a bunch of obscure horror film actresses in a subgenre of horror that I have nothing but love for, although there isn't a good name for this particular horror subgenre. It's the subgenre of horror where sorority house pledges have to stay in an allegedly haunted house for the night as the last step of their hazing. But the fraternity brothers have rigged the house with scary surprises, only for the girls to be trapped in a real haunted house and death and destruction befall them. Sometimes frat pledges are added to the mix, and there are some tweaks here and there, but in general, that is the main plot of these films like this, Hell Night, and The Hazing. Let's just give this subgenre a name now, shall we? We'll call it Haunted House Hazing Horror, because I do love alliteration. The best part about this disc, not the movie, is that it is presented with an optional intro from horror host Joe Bob Briggs, where he talks about the film like he was presenting it on one of his shows. And there's an optional commentary track with him throughout the film, but since this was my first viewing, I decided to watch the film without his commentary. Big mistake, because this film is bogus. The worst thing about it is the horror is very boring, as are the kills, and the film lacks any scares. But what it lacks in scares, it makes up for in Larry, a cubby frat brother who appears frequently throughout the first half of the film. Not gonna lie, he was the best thing about this film, and they really shot themselves in the foot when they limited his screen time to only the first half of the movie. Yeah, I had a bit of a crush. For some of you out there, the very present female nudity might get you through this film, but other than a prurient interest, this film has very little to offer. Which is a shame, because I love haunted house hazing horror, but this is a terrible entry in that subgenre. The whole reason I own this movie is that on the cover it boasts that it has the Joe Bob Briggs commentary track, and I really wish there were more DVD releases like this with Joe Bob Briggs plastered all over them. I also own a copy of I Spit on Your Grave where he does a commentary track, and we'll be watching that eventually, but there is never enough Joe Bob Briggs in the world. The man is horror movie hosting royalty, and even though Blood Sisters is clearly beneath him, and me, I'll watch it again someday for his commentary track alone. But this movie is getting a D- because it's just plain awful. Tomorrow, the pain continues as I watch yet another Uwe Boll film, Blood Rain. See y'all then.